Welcome to Talking Tea with Auntie, where we interview everyday people on fantastic topics. And today we have Thomas, who's a director of a sideshow called Freakshow Deluxe. And now to me, your gay auntie. Hello, loves. Welcome to Talking Tea with Auntie. And this is your gay auntie, Shining Nathan. And as always, I'm excited to have you all here. Now, if you found me organically, welcome, babe. But if you followed me here from TikTok, I'm as always excited to have you here. Remember to subscribe and do whatever it is you need to do so you get further notifications of more episodes. And if you like my content here and appreciate it and enjoy what I'm doing, please feel free to become a patron on my Patreon as low as $3 a month at patreon.com/Shining Nathan. And there you get to ask questions of our guests. Now, we have a fantastic guest here today who's going to be giving us a wonderful inside story of their own life and what they do for a living as a director of a sideshow. I know, I'm so excited. So let's get into it and let's bring in our guest, Thomas. Shall we? Let's go. Hello, Thomas. Hi,
Hello. Yes, it's me. I'm looking to see if my camera is working.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, my love?
I am fantastic. I am very excited. There we go. All right, how does that?
I'm great. I love your fez. That is beautiful. Love your mustache.
Thank you. Now I am sequestered. I'm inside of a truck that we use for the shows. So yes, so everyone else in the house is doing things, and so I was like, I need quiet. I'm going to go out to the truck. Leave me alone.
That's awesome. Tell me about you. Tell me how you became a, I guess, director of a freak show or sideshow. Tell me about all of it.
Absolutely. Well, there's a whole long story involved. If that's all right with you.
Of course. Please go on ahead.
Thank you so much. My parents had a traveling show when I was younger, not doing the sorts of things that I do, but doing theatrical performances. So from the age of 5, I was touring around the country with them and doing shows here and there. And while I was doing those, I would see people doing sideshow stunts, fire eating and fire breathing, bed of nails, blockhead, classic stunts like that. And so over the years, I picked up a little bit here, I picked up a little bit there. But it wasn't until I was living in Ohio, it was I was running a theater, and at that theater we had a haunted attraction that was the big fundraiser in October.
Mm-hmm.
And I came and was advertising, doing the marketing and stuff for this theater company, getting everything set. And I had done such a good job that there were so many people standing in line to get in. Once you bought your ticket, it was still 2 hours before you could get into the haunt. And so I had to start doing something to entertain people. So I built a bed of nails real quick. I grabbed some fire eating things. I took all the skills that I knew and started doing the show. There was another guy there, and he said, hey, I can do a couple of things. And I said, you're with me. So he and I started doing things that year. The next year, we expanded a little bit more and as a separate ticketed event to take away from people standing in line. And then it really took off after that. Then we got offers to do concert events and things like that. So it expanded even further, and we had to add more people. And before you know it, I had decided I wanted to move out to California, or back to California, because I had lived there before. And the decision was, when I moved back, we're going to make a go of this thing that we were calling Freakshow Deluxe. And so that's exactly what we did. And now it's been 23 years.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm running this show, and I produce and direct and perform, but I have so many great people who are part of the company and part of the staff and that sort of thing. And over the past 23 years, some people, they don't perform anymore, but they still do design work, or they still come out and do things, or, you know, I can converse with them, whatever the case may be. And that's been amazing. It's been amazing to have made such great friends and to really keep things going.
That is just incredible. That's wonderful. So tell me about the show itself. What is in the show now?
So Freakshow Deluxe specializes in the classic Carney sideshow acts with hardly any of that classic Carney smell. That's what we say. So we're doing all of the things like the human blockhead, where you pound the spike into your skull. We do the bed of nails, which I think you can see it. Yeah, I don't know how well that's going to work, but you can see one of the beds of nails right behind me there. We do fire eating and fire breathing, sword swallowing, all the classic carnival sideshow acts. And it's really it really is a lot of fun. We have a great time, and we perform them anywhere. So we do fairs and festivals, sort of carnival style stuff. We also do amusement parks, especially for Halloween time. We do corporate events, private parties, public spectacles, whatever the case may be. So it's a great thing. And then I even have some people who are actually what we call human anomalies, people that used to be known as freaks. You know what I mean? That they, we have a bearded lady, Dakota. She is a regular member of the company. She's wonderful. Black Scorpion is a gentleman I know who has electrodactyl, which means he has only 2 fingers and a thumb on each hand. Is better also called a lobster boy. A giant. We know a couple of giants. We know a couple of little people as well. So it's a great thing to have those older sorts of things, but in a new context, because it's no longer about just looking at someone who's different and staring at them like they're in the zoo. These are talented performers. They're wonderful people, and you get to know them. They also perform stunts and acts and all kinds of stuff, and you get to know them. And a person is only strange until you get to know them. And once you know them and you know more about them, well, now you can marvel at the amazing things that they do.
That is that's so beautiful. And where you're based in California right now, right?
Yes. Freakshow Deluxe is based in Hollywood, California. And now I'm on the road a lot. That's why I'm hiding here in the truck, because we use it to move gear from here to there. I've got a show in Cincinnati, Ohio coming up this weekend. So I'm on the road to there right now. And then I've got, we'll have some shows. We got some things going on in Illinois. But I mean, we travel and tour everywhere. So based in California, yes, in Hollywood, but traveling all over the country.
Have you traveled all over the country? Where have you had the best audience? That's always a fun question, I think.
Oh, boy, it's hard to choose the best one because there's been so many great ones. We were at Coney Island in New York City several times. We were at the Magic Castle in Hollywood, California. We got up into the great north there in Canada and did several things up there. Fairs in Virginia, in Texas, in Arizona, in Mississippi and Georgia. I think the best shows for me personally are the ones where no one's ever seen any. We get people who've never seen a show like this before. They've never gotten to see these acts. I mean, I got to see one of these kind of shows when I was much younger. Mm-hmm. So when someone, a younger person gets to see what we're doing now, the sort of thing that because I would go to a sideshow and I would watch the whole show like this. I couldn't. It was hard to watch. And And now, and now I get to perform, so I get to see the same sort of thing. But things are very different now. We're not doing the rip-offs or any of the that kind of stuff. It's all real. The stunts are real. There is a certain amount of danger, but it's part of the risk of wowing the audiences. And we're really all about having the audiences go on this journey with us.
I love that. I've seen glimpses of I guess a freak show, a sideshow. What are some difficulties you faced, either in perception or just in growth over the last 20 years?
Let's see. What difficulties have we faced? One of the biggest issues has been there's been several places that have wanted to hire us. They're doing an event, they want to bring us in, we'll perform at that event. And a couple of them have been very specific to not bring in any human anomalies. No real human anomalies. Like, well, we have a bearded lady, she's great, she can do this, that. And they're like, no, we don't want that. Because their concern is, and they're not wrong, is that it will take things backwards. Now we've heard people talk. We know, the old days when if you had a cousin who was a little strange or something, they might be locked in an attic somewhere or something like that. And nobody wants to go back to those days, us included. So I can see why they're leery about those things happening. But I have done shows where the audience, usually just me, of course, where the audience hates me, but they don't know me. I haven't even done anything. I walk out on the stage, they're already booing and throwing things at me on the stage. And so then I've been paid to do a show, so I'm going to do a show. And, but the goal becomes then to win them over to our side. Whenever a heckler starts and they want to sort of steer the focus to somewhere else, we work to turn the rest of the audience against them and let them know that, it's okay, but also to be like, hey, you person who you don't need to be afraid right now of what's happening on the stage. And those are these are the 20 plus years, these are the day-to-day things that happen. And there's been times where things have happened and the audience, like, I don't know if this is part of the show or not, or did they blow this stunt, did they forget how to do it or something like that. That's happened a few. Performers get heat stroke on a stage or something like that, and an audience doesn't know what's going on, so you have to move forward to keep them in the show and in the moment, but also take care of this performer and kind of take what happens and turn it to your advantage. That's been the big skill that I've learned over these years.
And that's a really great skill to have. So circling to you, how have you grown both as a performer and a showman in these last 20 years?
Now I performed and done theater for a long time. And when I was younger, I grew up in Ohio and I moved out to Southern California years and years ago. It was a very different place. I moved out to California and I played in punk bands. I did a little movie and TV. I sort of dabbled in a lot of things. And, in Southern California, it was really great to go to college. College was so cheap. So I went to college and I got a bachelor's degree in English and sort of a minor in theater. I took a lot of theater courses, but after, when I was getting towards the end, I was like, I'm just going to focus on getting the theater, or I'm sorry, the English degree, because I'm close to that. But I still then went and worked and did some more TV things and did live theater. I worked as a professional actor for a while, touring and working in regional theaters and stuff like that. But I never made it big. I never broke. I made good money. I had great experiences. I had made lots of friends. And then an opportunity came for me to go to graduate school. So I did. And I got a master's in theater. And that pushed me then to another level with that master's. And through that program, I worked in playwriting. I got to work in things that I had not gotten to work in before. And then I also learned a few other skills. And when I finished that time, I still worked for another couple of years in theater programs and doing things. So to make a long story longer, I
love it.
Well, I decided I didn't like doing theater anymore. Doing scripted things was too confining. Now, if I could direct, or if it was something I wrote and I could make it happen, that was exciting. But as far as performing, it wasn't, I never really got to a level, and I wasn't getting the kinds of roles that were really interesting and offered a lot of opportunity to grow and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So now I've moved on. I'm running this theater in Ohio, and I had a need, and that need was to entertain these people waiting to get into the haunted attraction. And so that's what I just took the skills I knew, no intention of doing anything other than entertaining people, but it took off, and people were very excited about it. Certainly way more excited than anyone ever was to see me acting or singing or anything else. So then it was another year, and then we got interest from a local radio station. I should say back then it was Clear Channel Radio. They owned like 6 or 8 stations in the area. I brokered a deal with them to work on The Haunt with us. And part of their stipulation was that now this Freakshow Deluxe, so we started calling it the second year, it had to be a part of things, and they wanted that show to perform at the big concert festivals and stuff like that, all to advertise this haunt. And that was huge, that got us in front of, tens of thousands of people. Things came to an end there. So I decided I wanted to move back out to Southern California, which we did. And then within 6 months of being there, I had opened my own theater there, the Empire Amusement Hall, which was on Theater Row in Hollywood. And then we were doing that. We were, a lot of people were coming in to workshop things. A lot of magicians from the Magic Castle were doing things. Burlesque producers were coming in and doing little shows. It was an experimental time that was really just a lot of fun. We weren't doing, we were doing very few straight plays or straight shows. It was very much, we were trying to be avant-garde, but it kind of was. That's to, these phenomenal burlesque performers and all this other stuff. And then America's Got Talent happened. The first year of America's Got Talent, about a third of the performers who were on that show had performed at our theater in the previous 6 months. And that then put us on the map. And then people were calling for us to travel and tour and do all that stuff. And then, we ended up closing the theater because we were all too busy traveling and touring and performing and making a lot more money with no overhead from the theater. So, and it just keeps going.
And so have you visited all 50 states in this time yet? Or are there a few little dark spots you've not been to yet?
There's a couple states that I personally have not been to, but Freakshow Deluxe has sent a show there.
Okay.
So they're like my partner, Alice, for example, and we have 2 kids together, and now her niece is staying with us as well, and we're all performing and and doing things. She, if I was running a show in one spot and we had other gigs, she would run the show in the other spot, and then we would have someone else who would run another show. We'd have as many as 5 shows out on the road simultaneously.
Oh wow! And so are they in each show, or is it different sets for each show that go?
it's a little different sets because each show focuses really on the performers who are in that show. Now, a lot of us can do a lot of the same things, but everybody has a different way of doing things. And some people have skills that other people don't. So it would give us this opportunity to really experiment, I guess, to try things out. And of course, for us, we're doing shows for people, many of whom have never seen a sideshow before. You know, they haven't been to Coney Island in the summertime and seen the show there, or they didn't get down to Venice Beach and see the show there, or there's no touring shows coming to their local fairs or anything like that. And so our shows are really geared for people who've never seen anything like this before.
That's so cool.
It is kind of I mean, really what I prefer, because when we hang out with other sideshow people who are not a part of the company, and even when we are kind of we're together and stuff, there's a lot of one-upmanship and like, oh, you did that, I'm going to do, you know, oh, sure, you did that, but I'm going to do this, which is much harder. And that's fun, and it lets us push the edge, and it lets us try things. It's an opportunity to keep things fresh. But when you're performing for your regular audience, that really isn't what they're there for. Yeah. They really just want to be, you know, just seeing someone pound a single nail, you know, a good size single nail into the center of their skull, like through the thing. That is usually enough to make push someone. That act makes people pass out more than any other act. I don't know why. It just. I didn't have any tea, so I brought something.
Oh, you're fine. I was gonna make tea, but then I was like, I'm craving my sparkling water, and it's my current bougie vice. So I do.
Very nice. I realized my camera is tracking me. That's weird. I haven't used this camera before. Hold on,
I was wondering why it was moving. I was like, this is a fancy camera.
It is. I don't know if I like it, honestly. I may have to change it after this. I hope I'm not making people at home seasick or anything like that. That would be terrible.
You're perfectly fine. I was like, that is somebody holding it? I was
no, it's just sitting there. I don't know what's going on, but whatever.
It's really cool. This is something that's fascinating. It's one of those things where there's so little whimsy and wonder left in the world that this is something that still provides that's different in terms of, like, yes, you can go watch like Saw or those gore fests, but that's different as always with a live performance, which is something why I love the theater, because you get to feel something different than something you see on TV.
Yes, and I agree wholeheartedly with that. When it works, when you're watching something on a live stage, and it works, and the moment is there, and you're feeling the emotions, it's so much better than something that's on TV or something that's on a movie in the movie theater or anything like that. And for us, what we try to do is, one of the important things for our performance, let's just say my performance, but for any performance, is to the audience, the people in the audience, they have to be concerned about the performer. Mm-hmm. They have to, that person on stage that now they've met, they know their name, maybe they know a little something about them or something like that. They have to not want to see them be hurt. They will have to see them really do this amazing thing, because it's also about how amazing the human body is and mind over matter, and being able to do, if I can do these things on stage, maybe you don't want to pound a nail into your head, which is fair, but why can't you ask for that raise, or ask out that, be brave, take the risks, take the chances. Because if I can do this, where I could really be injured and not manage not to be, then there's no reason you can't do the amazing and astounding things you're capable of doing. And that's what I really want to see. When kids come to the show, a lot of times luckily I get to meet them up close, and that's what I get to tell them. Now these days, of course, they want to tell me what they want for Christmas, but that's
and
okay.
So I take it the beard's a recent development, is it?
Yeah. Yes. Last year, because we were still in sort of quarantine and the pandemic and stuff, and our work had shut down. I mean, there was nobody doing fairs. There was no one doing anything. We did have some work, and I decided in November that I was going to go no shave November. And then, because I've had a beard before, but the silver and all is pretty new. And I was growing it in, and I was like, this really looks good. I like this. So it's been a little over a year, almost a year and a half. And I've managed to keep it from catching fire when I fire. So as long as I can keep doing that, I think I'll be okay.
I mean, it looks really good, and you look fairly young to have that much gray in your beard, though.
Thank you. Oh, you stop there. You are too kind for that.
Oh,
it's being a Generation Xer, and I just read this today online. Somebody posted that people want to ignore Generation X, and that's fine. We're just going to sit over here looking half of our age on a regular basis and judging everyone.
About the same as millennials, except we don't keep quiet about it.
Exactly. Nor should you, frankly.
No.
There's more of you than there ever were of Gen X. So I say feel free. Go right ahead.
My mother is a boomer, but I am noticing the gray coming. I'm turning 35 this year, and I'm like, oh well, this is an interesting thing. As
You're
my body,
baby, that's awesome. I had the pleasure, and I don't want to get too off topic, except for will. So stop me at any moment. But when I was running that theater in Ohio, the one where we started doing Freakshow Deluxe, I had an opportunity. We were talking about, because it was a summer theater on a big outdoor stage in this big outdoor amphitheater, and we focused on doing one show. And the thought was, we've been doing this show a long time. Maybe we should try to mix it up a little bit. Maybe we take 1 week of that show out, we do another show. And we decided to do Shane, the classic Western. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. Stars Alan Ladd, and with the young boy at the end, Shane, come back, Shane. Like, that's the whole tagline.
Yeah, I've seen that scene at the end.
Oh, absolutely. It's an American classic. I think everybody should see it. Where Shane is, for those who don't know, he's sort of this man with a shady past who comes into town, starts working for a farmer, and ends up having to sort of end up fighting the bad guys on behalf of this farmer. So I had been in grad school in the world premiere of a play version of that movie, and the book, of course, it was before that. Well, we got permission to do Shane at this outdoor drama, or this big outdoor amphitheater. Sorry, there's a lot of drama, but this big outdoor amphitheater, because we were like, great, we'll have horses and stagecoaches and big bar fights and like all of this stuff. And I got to, just by chance, met Bruce Campbell, who did the Evil Dead movies, Army of Darkness, that kind of thing. And he's done, Briscoe County Jr. had ended, and he had done Bubba Hotep. And of course now, he's this proliferation of phenomenal movies. He's just a phenomenal person. So he agreed to do the show. I talked to him, and we did some negotiating, and he agreed to do the show. So he came out, rehearsed for 2 weeks, which is an the stage actors union standard, 2 weeks of rehearsal, and then a week of the shows. He was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. He and I were having a conversation one night, and he was saying, oh yeah, I'm at this age, and everyone now is like, oh, Bruce, you're too old to do stuff. You're too old to do stuff. And he said, saying in his eyes that when he looked at the careers of actors that he really liked, such as Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood really wasn't doing his great work until he was in his 40s.
Yeah.
You know, it takes that maturity it takes that ability to read a room, you know, to go into a place and be like, oh, this audience hates me. The usual thing isn't going to do. I'm going to have to mix it up a little bit. But that's the fun of live performance, and especially, I mean, we are going off of scripts that we've developed over the years, but that ability to improv a little bit, sort of take it in a different direction when need be, is always, it keeps the mind sharp, it keeps your body sharp a little bit. But I am getting older, and when you say the beard stuff, I am sort of in a transitionary thing of, I call it the third age of the circus sideshow, where now I work more on training people and working with newer people, and then I'll start sending them out with our shows, with our Freakshow Deluxe shows. And we have some great people who've joined the company and are phenomenal performers, really, in their own right. It has nothing to do with me at all. So it's great to be able to see them taking over the reins and doing some of the work. Plus my own two monsters, you know, they've been very good in doing things too.
And how old are you two monsters?
I have one, my son is 17. His first TV appearance, he was 5. He was on Nickelodeon doing the Bed of Nails act for a show for them. And then my daughter is 15 right now. And she is off doing a play at her high school.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, but they were both on, they did TV. They were both on Super Kids, on which was a show out of Germany. Australia's Got Talent. Not Australia's Got Talent. Australia's Little Big Shots. Steve Harvey's Little Big Shots. And they're naturals. I mean, obviously they have, but they really are. They really are naturals, and we've really kept an eye on, like, you don't get to perform unless your grades are passable. You know, you got to have good grades. You still got to do things. All that's important. I mean, all that's important. And I think of that from when I was a kid, if I had to do the same thing. There was no going off and doing a show if my grades at school were not where they should be. And it's what?
And that's 100% fair, as it should be.
Yeah. It really is, because it's not, for us in performing, it's not, and for anyone who's in the industry and doing things in the entertainment industry, any facet of the entertainment industry, it's not just about the talent and the skill. It's also about business sense, and you either have to have the business savvy, or you've got to find people who have the business savvy that you can trust.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And this is a big thing. I've heard a lot of horror stories from the entertainment industry.
Oh man. Oh my goodness. And for us, even when we would get these calls and they'd want the kids to go do a TV show somewhere or something, and they'd be like, we have enough, we'll bring the kids and one parent. And we'd be like, no, both parents have to go, because I am in charge of, they're knife throwing and they're doing these dangerous acts. And so I've got to take care of all the safety aspects. And then their mom has to take care of all the day-to-day, taking care of the kids, making sure they eat, make sure they sleep, they keep up on homework. All of those very important things. When we meet up with other families who are in the circus or in the sideshow or in the carnivals, doing shows, being showmen, for most of them, it's a very different world, because for most of them, generationally, they grew up doing circus.
Mm-hmm.
So they look at it very differently. For me, I grew up doing theater with my parents. The sideshow and fair carnival stuff didn't come until much later. So for them, doing things like having work, homeschooling, and that sort of thing is much more something they're used to doing, which I was not. Alice was not. We said for the two kids, they're like, no, that we're not homeschooling you. I'm not going to fight with you the whole time to get your stuff done. You got to really knuckle under and show us that you want to, and that you want to do it. And they're kids, so sometimes they're like, I don't feel like doing this right now. Like, there's an audition for thing. Do you want to do it? And they're like, I really don't. There's a school dance and I want to go to it. I'm like, okay.
Kids got to be kids, especially
yeah, so much so. Kids got to be kids, and it's our responsibility to make sure that they can be kids, because they may not want to, do theater and do work like that after this. I mean, I hope they will. I hope they'll want to keep the Freakshow Deluxe going for, years after this. Once I've really stepped back. But I'll still be writing and doing some shows and maybe handling phone calls and stuff, but less and less performing on stage. It's harder to recover.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I've learned. It's like, can I still do things like I did in my 20s? Absolutely. How long will it take for me to recover from those things is the question.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. And really, I think no matter how much you take care of yourself and do things, that can definitely extend your time for doing things, but you've got to give yourself the time to heal, and you've got to really, the older you get, then the more you have to do to be able to do the things you could just show up and do in your 20s without worrying about it.
Time she's a bitch. She really she does us so dirty.
It's true.
It really is.
The bonuses, though, are tastes refined. So fine whiskeys and bourbons and cigars and those, I didn't enjoy them when I was younger, but now I'm like, I get it. Now.
That's where I'm at. It's like, before it was like, what MD 2020, well vodka. Now I'm like, you know what? I like a nice little champagne, because a medium or cheaper champagne is better than what I used to drink in my 20s.
Oh, so true. Oh, it's so true. Well, I imagine you had a problem very much like when I was younger, is I could never relax. So it was always another, juggling two or three projects, working full time, but also doing another thing. And I never smoked. I wasn't much of a drinker unless it was socially, like we were going out somewhere or something like that. I never kept alcohol in the house or anything, not for any reason. I just never, my parents never did. I never did. And then I decided that I needed to calm down. I needed to calm it down a little bit. So that was actually one of the reasons I took up cigars, because with a cigar, I have to go outside and I have to sit for like an hour and relax and enjoy the cigar, and not, everyone else, in theater at least, is taking, 5-minute smoke breaks every hour to like puff down a cigarette, run back inside. And if you don't smoke, you're kind of stuck, because then you don't need to go outside. So you're stuck in there working. Missing out on great conversations and plans.
On all the gossip, you miss out. I was a professional costume designer for a few years. I went to school for
exactly. Oh, that's awesome.
It was brilliant. But I was a professional costume designer 3 years in Houston doing theater at Texas Repertory, doing the repertory, all of that. And then suddenly I fell in to the legal field as a file clerk. And then next you knew, 15 years later, I was a director of operations and marketing for the in the legal field. But my background was a costume designer in theater arts. And I remember that's how I started smoking, was going to school, and the only way you could socialize was in between classes.
Yes.
With like the sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So we'd be all out there. And now
it's true.
Now I still am addicted to the nicotine. So
it's hard to break that. It's hard to break that cycle. I had worked for one of the things, I guess, for business acumen is I had worked for several corporations over the years doing corporate stuff, filing. I did work for a legal firm at one point, which was more of an apprenticeship to teach me more about the business of entertainment. And it was a phenomenal experience, and I would not trade it for anything. So, but yeah, that it was hard. And see, I did that when I was younger. So when I was older and now, working in entertainment constantly, now it was my job other than just a side hustle. That made a big difference. I always talk to people who are, doing theater or dancers. They're in entertainment, they're younger, like, oh, I'd hate to work in an office. I'm like, they have free coffee in an office. You could sit down.
They have free coffee and a lot of times free snacks. Because I did try to juggle both at the same time, and it was in Houston, and my office that I lived over here, and then it was an hour 30 minutes in the morning to the office.
Whoa.
Doing theater for medium-sized theater up on the north side of Houston, so that was an hour and a half drive to the theater for fittings, for rehearsals, for me to do everything, and for building. And then so it was I get off of work and they're like, we need you. I was like, no, gotta go. I did that for 3 years working professionally, and then before I knew it, I was like, well, this legal job is paying my bills, and my career's taken off as a marketing director. And before you do it, and now here I am as a content creator full time. 50.
The working though in that office environment though does instill a discipline.
It does.
And for a time when I wasn't working in an office, I had lost that discipline of like, I got to be up, I got to be I got to be cleaned up at a place, halfway awake, that kind of thing. And so when you're it's hard when you're your own boss too. Of, do I really have to be there? Do I really have to do this thing? And I think the pandemic and the quarantine, I always say the pandemic, but I mean the quarantine really changed that for a lot of us, a lot of people, where now suddenly things were very different, and everyone's like, luckily finding things to do, but a lot of them exploring art and the arts. I myself, I worked on tiki drinks, learning to make tiki drinks, and Chinese cooking.
Ooh, what was your favorite thing to learn from that Chinese cooking?
Char siu was the best, which is the roasted like pork. It's usually in a red. It usually is red when you get it from like a Chinese restaurant. And man, because you're basting and you're keeping it in this, and it's got to soak in this and baste in this, and you put it in the oven, and then you got to pull it out and baste it and turn it and put it in again. So it was a sort of a labor intensive thing, but man, it was so good. It was so good. So I like that, but I got through several recipes that really were they were really great. Of course, then the tiki drinks too. So we would sit, we had a sort of big house, had a couple big outdoor areas. I took one of the areas and put in a brick patio. I'm not very handy, but I was able to get this brick patio down so that we could sit outside, or we also had a huge driveway into the garage. And before that patio was done, we would just sit out there, pull out the sound system out of this truck that we use for shows. It just bump music and grill and cook stuff, and friends would come over and we'd sit apart, but everybody would have drinks and hang out outside. And that is how we got through it. I don't know how we would have gotten through it otherwise.
I think a lot of us got through it with alcohol. I myself learned how to make very good wine-based margaritas.
Awesome. Oh, that sounds great.
Oh yeah, and my bosses never knew. By about 2 p.m, I was already a little toasty because I was like, well, screw it. They're not going to know.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, my other boss, because I switched jobs. 2020, I got laid off from the company I was working for. And then another company hired me. Amazing boss. He's like, honestly, We do not have meetings before 11 a.m. Eastern time, period. And so he was wonderful. So it was always afternoon was when our meetings would happen. And so I kind of took up that little bit of a sleep schedule and but at the same time, it just like, he kind of taught us all like, none of this needs to be this kind of gung-ho. Like none of this has to be this serious, you know? Yes, it's serious.
It's serious, important to have clients, but if you burn yourself out doing the mundane things, you're not going to be ready when it's go time, when it's the gotta go. Yeah,
exactly. And so the one thing I do miss is 24-hour Walmart. I will admit I do miss 24-hour Walmart.
Yes.
Just give me one day a week where it's 24-hour Walmart. Just one day.
It was so great for like avoiding people and stuff. Yeah. And I was sad that a lot of like venues that we would work at, venues we would go to and hang out at and see shows, that so many of them closed. They didn't make it through that time. Either their landlords wouldn't go without a rent, or they were just like, I can't keep doing this. And I think that was sad. That was a really difficult part of going through all of that. And I mean, the kids missed 2 years of school. Kids are like pretty feral, like running the streets.
Well, that's right. You're in California, so y'all had entirely different
Oh yeah. There were. I mean, when we were in California, then we could not leave, and so at one point we were like, let's get a place outside for the kids so they can be a little freer, because you couldn't go. I mean, you couldn't go outside your door because it's so crowded. You couldn't go out anywhere. You couldn't, it was tough enough to go out and sit in the yard and avoid people without something happening. Yeah. And then traveling through, we did have luckily we still worked a little bit, but we had worked into our contract various things about, if the rules are this, we'll follow them. But if somebody's not following them, then you pay us and we're out, or I'm not going to risk future contracts being sick because your people aren't doing the thing. That was weird. Why did it look down at my
It wanted to show the full fit.
Oh, fair.
So that's good. Y'all were able to work partially through pandemic, and I'm glad y'all put that in the contract though, because there were so many people who were performers who did not get that type of protection. Yeah.
And for performers, it's really tough. If we were talking about performing and content providing is a part of the part of the entertainment industry, as well as news, right? And documentation, frankly, which is important. It's for something everybody wants more of, more content, more performance, more entertainment. It's a shame that it doesn't pay better, because it's hard to, you don't want to get sick and not have any insurance.
Yeah.
And you don't want to, and like for us, we've got to carry a huge liability policy, which is fine. But it's expensive and it goes up every year. But the big concern of I don't want to get sick, because then what am I going to do? If I can't work, then I'm not making a living.
Yeah.
I need a stick in my hand. I think that's why it's doing it. That you're not making a living. And it makes me think there was a sideshow that was touring, and they had the smallest woman in the world with them. We were all at a fair together. So we went, I gave her money and got an autograph picture, that kind of thing. But when they got to the next town, we weren't doing the next town. When they got to the next town, they had a law on the books that you couldn't have a little person or a giant. You couldn't have a human anomaly on display. So they're like, well, she can't. This town was like, she can't set up here. And what was she supposed to do? She's got a truck, she's got a trailer with her stuff, got the people who work for her plus her and herself, with no way to take care of herself and no way to get any money. And I mean, the fair isn't paying her because she is an independent contractor who's come in on their midway, because that's how that's the business aspect of how it works. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that was, and I don't know what happened at all. But there was a big clamoring because that was a big issue, because the way, and I don't know how interested everybody is, but the way the business works, either you're paid by the fair, or by the fair, the people who've been hired by the fair board hires companies to bring in entertainment, concessions, rides, that sort of thing. And then each of those companies usually operate separately. They're the ones who hire people in, but the people that they brought in under contracts, sometimes they're pay to play. They've got to pay for their spot where they set up, and then they make their money off of ticket sales, or whatever the case may be. Now, for us, usually the fair board or the company, they pay us directly to come in, and we do X number of shows. We're not dependent on ticket sales. If nobody is at a show, we still do a show because we're being paid to do that, but we're still getting paid for that show whether or not anybody's there. Yeah. And that's hard, I think, that's hard for the fair companies. And it means that we don't make like a huge bankroll, but we know what we're getting. Yeah. And then merchandise or other things on top of it. For some people, they're paying for their spot, or the fair, or even sometimes a fair company will hire them and say, we're going to give you this spot. Whatever you make in ticket sales is what you make. That's your pay for working here. And it could be great, or it could be it could be terrible. If it rains 3 out of 5 days, you're not going to really make the money that you needed to make to have it, to be there. And then what do you do? If you're like this woman who wasn't allowed to set up her attraction, what are you supposed to do? And those are, business wise, these are the things to consider. And also, like I said earlier, when sometimes we get things from people where they're like, we don't want this kind of performer or that kind of performer. We can't have that. A lot of places, of course, we can't do fire, can't do anything involving fire or flames or sparks or anything like that, which removes some really wow acts. But we've done it enough that we can adjust and make allowances for that sort of thing. We did a show, I got hired at one time for a convention. We got there to do the convention, and we were setting up and testing our levels, the knife thrower, the bullwhip, the this, that, and the hotel that the convention was at kind of freaked out and basically said, we can't have you guys, these knives are dangerous. They're weapons. Weapons aren't allowed in the hotel. For the sword swallower said, swords are not allowed in the hotel. And we're like, come on. And we kind of cut a deal with the guys who had hired us, because we're like, look, man, we're here. I know this isn't your fault. The hotel are being jerks, but we still got to get paid. So we kind of made a deal with them, and we were in a side room and would usher people in and close the door, do the acts, and then ship everybody out. So the hotel people couldn't see what was happening. But that was probably one of the worst. And that was just too much worry probably about lawsuits or injury, liability stuff. We're like, we've got an insurance, this, $5 million insurance policy for that reason. You don't want fire. That makes sense. Sometimes fire marshals are a little tough to deal with, but so one time we did a show at an amusement park called Carowinds. We did their Scarowinds Halloween event, and Carowinds amusement park is right on the border of North Carolina and South Carolina. Okay. It straddles the state line. And the stage, for the outdoor stage we were on, the state line ran right through the middle of it. So in the one state, we could have the fuels and stuff, but we couldn't have open flame. And then in the other state, you couldn't have the fuels and stuff, but if you had fire, that was okay. So you would have to walk across the stage, dip your torches in buckets and stuff over there, then walk to the other side of the stage, then do the stunt, then light the torch, then do the stunt, then walk back across. Weird things like that. And they had to have a fire marshal there for us. So there was a fire marshal from each state stage to make sure we did the things we were supposed to do.
Oh my God. I never would have thought about any of that.
Oh yeah, we were like, okay, we'll do, whatever you want. Sure, we'll make it happen. We learned a lot. That was a great experience. It was a great experience. It wasn't, luckily for us, it was not a terrible experience, and we were able to get a good laugh out of it. But man, we actually were making jokes about it during the show to the audience because, we're like, I know this seems to be taking a while, but there's a reason. I got to cross the border to get this thing.
That's just one of those things you never would have expected, which leads to a fantastic segment of this show where I get to ask my patrons on Patreon to ask questions, I guess. And I have a couple questions right here from a few of my patrons. I'm going to pull them up.
Well, excellent. Very excited about that.
I am too. So, and if other people want to be able to ask questions of my guests, you can become a patron on my Patreon for as low as $3 a month at patreon.com/ShininNathan. And
you should definitely do
it. Thank you. Y'all should definitely go see Freakshow Deluxe. Do y'all have a website, by the way, that tells people where y'all are?
We do. Our website is freakshowdeluxe.com. And you can find us on all the social media: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Tinder, Farmers Only. But we're on all the social media. And actually, your Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter is usually where you'll find out where we are next. So, like I said, I'm traveling a lot this summer, doing some things in various and sundry states. So I'm on the road a lot.
You look excited.
So excited.
Blink twice if you need help.
Oh my gosh, I cannot tell you how many shows we've done. We were in Oklahoma City at the Six Flags Park doing their great haunted event. We've been there. We've had a show there for years. Had shows at other places at the same time, but we've been there for years. It's a wonderful park. They're so gracious and so wonderful there. And the one performer, she was supposed to jump up and down barefoot on broken glass. Like that was the act. And she's getting ready and preparing herself. And then one of the audience members is like, blink twice if you need help. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So then we're all watching to see if she's going to blink or not.
I like that. A safe word. A safe word.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Okay, so your patrons have questions. Or was that their... Oh, okay.
Actually, this leads to a really good question of my patron, who is John33713, asks, what is the most dangerous act that you have?
Well,
because they all have an air of danger, I'm assuming. What is the most dangerous?
They all have an inherent danger. Mm-hmm. And for each of them, so much of what we do is it's a learned skill. It's the ability to know, like, I know where I can skewer this needle through my arm, or I know how long I can hold a torch in my mouth before I get injured. So I, through trial and rehearsal and all that kind of things, I know what I can do and what I can't do. The most dangerous acts usually happen from things that we were not expecting. In my early days, I was doing a bed of nails act, and there were three 300-pound wrestlers that we brought up to stand on top of me while I was lying on the bed of nails. And one of them slipped and fell on top of me while I was on the bed of nails. So not only was it, nearly 1,000 pounds, now, I have somebody fall on top of me. And that was, that was dangerous and that was scary. I came out of it all right. I prepared myself mentally and physically for it. I didn't feel great, but I was able to get, through it. I've had acts where I have ended up with blood just shooting out of my forehead at the audience. We do a straitjacket escape where our performer is put in a straitjacket and chains and then hung upside down above a bed of nails or above something dangerous. So if they don't get out of it correctly, or the time ends and the rope gets cut, or the candle burns through the rope, they'll fall down on top of this, this dangerous thing. Those are really dangerous, where you're really relying on your skills to finish safely and to beat the clock. The acts where you have to beat the clock, those I'm going to say are the most dangerous. Or the acts where anything could happen, like the bed of nails with people staring at you. Or, in my early days of fire eating and fire breathing, I would sometimes breathe fire. The wind would change direction and blow the whole fireball across my face, usually losing my eyelashes and eyebrows. And then once I got burned, so I went back, put some burn gel on my face. I didn't have this beard, obviously. It's clean shaven. Put some burn gel on my face. I'm like, there's still people I got to perform. I went back out and discovered that burn gel is flammable.
It's flammable?
It's flammable because it was a petroleum-based thing, so that wasn't fun. But so I caught fire, luckily, smart enough to just put myself out, and show's over. Thank you very much. Good night. So those are the most. It's not something as specific as much of the circumstances in which you find yourself can make it very very dangerous.
And understandably so. And so then that would be with our next patron, Kitty 35. I can't really read that last one. Ask, what were if you have performed, which now we know you have, what were your favorite ones to perform?
Ooh, an act that I really love doing, it's really been my standard since I first started doing this, is to do the human blockhead. So I pound a 6-inch steel spike into my skull, and then I'll actually take a Phillips head screwdriver and put it in the other side and let the audience and all this is usually with an audience member on stage. I like that act because there's a lot of jokes, a lot of humor. It's working with the audience, and also it doesn't take a lot of props. Like a hammer, a nail, a screwdriver, maybe a pliers in case something gets stuck, and that's the extent of it. That is the act also that usually makes, if people pass out during the show, it's normally during that act, because that's an act we usually start the show with, because we're showing people that everything's real and it's not a magic show or an illusion show. It's real. So, an audience members are checking the nail, they're checking the screwdriver, the hammer, all of that kind of stuff. And so it's really, really real. It's a very visceral thing. It's something you feel just in your jejunum.
Yeah. And so would be the one with doing the needle through your arm.
Yes. That the other skewering and human pincushion, which is a fakir act, is very much a mind over matter, and it is trying to. There are techniques and things do mentally and physically to stop the bleeding. Anyone can pound, for example, the blockhead can pound a 6-inch steel spike into their skull. But what makes it an act is remaining unhurt.
Yeah.
Holding the nail, blood is going everywhere, those are the things that make it an act, is you're able to do these things and not be injured. So when I've done something where I put a skewer through my arm, I put a skewer from one cheek through the other, and this is bringing someone up from the audience to make sure there's no holes, which there are not. I didn't know you could cheat on it and do that. And then to do that, and then when I could pull them back out and they're, you know, and then I've done it correctly and I'm not bleeding, or at least not profusely, because a little blood lets you know that it's real. That is, you know, those are my favorites because they are the most impactful of all the acts.
Yeah,
everybody loves fire.
I don't even know if fire is just cool, you know.
Oh yeah.
Fire is so cool. And so with Space Boy, that's the name.
Okay.
Asked, how has the industry changed over the years? Or just in general?
The industry is oh man, that was a paper that I wrote actually. Presented at a conference.
Y'all have conference?
Pop culture conference. Well, it was a conference for the Pop Culture Association, and they have a whole circus and carnival segment of that. Which, if you get the chance to go, it's pretty. So people get to present their papers and stuff, and then they published them. So this one paper I've done a couple. They've been published, but it has changed a lot. There was a time when there were, up through, especially, we talk 1920s, 1930s during the Great Depression, there were a lot of traveling carnivals, and those carnivals were not so much rides, they were shows, and oddities and stuff like that, and circuses like Nightmare Alley. Guillermo del Toro just did a remake of Nightmare Alley. I liked it. I liked the original one too, but a good part of it takes place at a carnival sideshow. And it's this collection of performances. Then the 40s, 50s, it was petering out a little bit. The 60s, 70s, you sort of had a resurgence, but now rides were coming in, and all these live shows were replaced with rides. The other thing happened during that time, during the 60s and 70s, that a lot of the older showmen and showmen who were experienced, were starting to cash out, starting to retire. And a lot of them were selling their shows to the same couple of people. And this is from my research that I've done, the same couple of people. And then those people weren't restaffing those shows and sending them out. They were taking props and stuff they wanted and then getting rid of the rest. So now they're essentially getting rid of their competition. So now there were not as many sideshows doing the kinds of things I do on the road. A lot of the things of like bands, big bands, song and dance reviews, those other types of shows started playing venues. They started going to venues rather than fairs and carnivals. At the same time, fairs and carnivals, there were less and less fairs and carnivals. As transportation became better, the emergence of television, the emergence of other forms of entertainment, a lot of them couldn't compete with these newfangled things. Now, we're seeing a resurgence because people feel they've seen everything on TV. Now, having that visceral impact of seeing something live is very different for a live audience. I mean, a lot of audiences are not used to seeing anything live. They just movies, TV, internet now, they see things. It's a big difference between watching one of our videos on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, which is the Freakshow Deluxe. That's just, a static video from one shot. You can watch the show, you can hear the jokes, whatever the case may be, but it does not have the visceral impact of being right there close to the show. When I'll blow fire on stage in a theater and hearing people in the front rows being like, I can feel the heat. Like, I guess they still think it's fake up through that part. And they're like, I can feel the heat. Like, this is really happening. That has made a big change. What for me as a performer then, and of course I consider myself a theater professional before getting into this, is for a lot of the, not a lot, for many of the performers who are doing Sideshow, many of them are self-taught because there's no one to teach them. All the old timers who would have trained people and mentored them and do that, they're not around to mentor and train people. And I was very lucky because I certainly didn't have a mentor for years. I had seen things and I picked up this here and there, but I was building the acts in a vacuum. I didn't, we started doing these performances at this theater for this haunted attraction and then building up, but we were flying by the seat of our pants. We were making it up as we went along. But we were familiar with the audience because the audience like YouTube, television, and movies. So we knew that was our competition. So that became, our shows had to meet and exceed that expectation of what people were expecting to see. And so for a number of younger performers, it's hard. It's difficult for them because there is no one to mentor them. And a lot of the guys who mentored me and stuff have passed away. And it's really sad. Like I really never got to spend enough, no matter how much time and no matter how many lessons I learned, I still didn't get to learn everything, and that's tough. That's tough to know that those fountains of knowledge, you tried to write down what you could, you tried to do this and that, but it's gone. Mm-hmm. And so you can do all the research and read all the books, but it's not the same as seeing it. It's not the same as being shown how to do it, how to see somebody who's really talented to interact with an audience and read the room and do the things and do it correctly. So what you're seeing now is you're seeing some great performers come up. You're having more and more opportunities to see shows because the new frontier is, we do a lot of tattoo shows. The big tattoo conventions were a thing, kind of went away, and now they're back. And you can get to see a large number of very talented Sideshow acts and Sideshow performers performing at tattoo conventions. You can see them at haunted attractions at amusement parks. Larger haunted attractions, a lot of them will hire Sideshow performers to work the queue line, while people are standing in line, or to do, or to have a set show that, like our shows used to be, to sort of pull people away to do other things to alleviate the lines a little bit. And that's great. Like, we're very, very happy to see that happen. And there's even a couple, Coney Island, Sideshow by the Seashore is still going on. Pexco's Dime Museum is in Georgia. Look that up. It's Pexcho, Pexco's. He is doing some phenomenal stuff. He regularly has performers in his venue. He has a huge collection of Sideshow oddities and stuff like that to see. So there's a wonderful Sideshow museum in Uranus, Missouri, which is on Old Route 6, Uranus, Missouri. I wish I was there. I am not. There's a fudge factory there because the best comes from Uranus. Because of course there is. So it's this sort of tourist trappy thing. But it's very fun, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit. But they have an amazing Sideshow museum there, and a couple performers to take the tour of the museum and then get to see some live performance of some pretty incredible acts. And I recommend it highly. The Oddities and Curiosities Expo that travels, and there's another couple like sort of Oddities Expos that do convention centers and set up. They have Sideshows performing at those. And we've performed at some, and we know some great performers who are at those. So it's out there. It's not coming to you like the old carnivals and fairs used to, but it is there. you just got to, go out and find it. Go see every bit of it. Decide for yourself what's good and what's not. And don't get too caught up in the history of what was, and enjoy it for what it is.
I like that. I really do like that. I think a lot more people need to live by that. On that note, I think I should let you get back to your family. Any parting words, or to the world out there, or to tell people where you're going to be next?
I'm going to be posting on Instagram today the place that I'm going to be on Sunday.
Okay.
It's going to be in Cincinnati, Ohio. It is the Living Breathing Kitchen. We've worked with them for a number of years. The chef is phenomenal. He's creating a custom meal, and there will be entertainment to accompany each course.
Ooh.
So, including your Freakshow Deluxe, and I, your Reverend Tommy Gunn, will be there for that. And then there's several other things. We've got a big festival in Alton, Illinois, which is the most haunted small town in America, and was the birthplace of the world's tallest man. So you should come and see the ghosts and see the life-size statue they have to him in that town. And we're gonna be and then just all over the place from there. Oh, yeah, there's so much going. There's just so much going on. We booked another couple of things. I think something in Delaware I should be in. I also do historical performance of Sideshow. So I'll be at George Washington's Mount Vernon in September. I've done that for a number of years, which is it's entertainment and historical entertainment stuff all day. And if you've never been to George Washington's Mount Vernon, it really is amazing to see. It's just so much history. The museum's great. You can let's see. Well, you're wondering why a cigar is, because a carny smokes a cigarette, but a showman smokes a cigar. And if you are interested, you can find this on Facebook. It's a newer thing. We're sort of experimenting with it right now. The Great and Benevolent, Regal and Loyal Super Secret Order of the Freakshow Deluxe, which is our official fan club, Mystic Temple of the Mystic Knights, number 6194. And you can sign up on that, and you get your special rings and your special stuff. But it's a super secret club just for Freakshow Deluxe members. It doesn't take much to join or stay in it, and I recommend it highly for everyone. But you got to sign up for the Patreon for this show. You got to keep great things like this going, and come and see us, because we want your money.
And y'all need to see Freakshow Deluxe, because I want to go. I'm gonna have to. That's what I was doing. I was writing down the Sideshow Museum, and then I was actually going on Instagram.
Excellent.
Because I road trip all the time.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Well, I can hardly wait to. Hopefully, I'll be at that show that you go to. I will look forward to seeing you, and let me know, because it would be a pleasure to get to hang out in person and get to and show you the things. It's pretty. Bring you up on stage, let you see up close and personal how it's done, which it's done exactly like how it looks. But still exciting and amazing. I have Freakshow Deluxe. I have followed y'all on Instagram. There you are. Oh, I love I get a little carried away, and sometimes the kids post stuff on there too. So hey, getting away is how you build everything. Exactly. Yes. Well, Thomas, I want to thank you so much. This was an absolute delight. Oh, I want to thank you. I've just had such a wonderful time. It's really been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. I look forward to seeing you as well. Thank you so much, and you take care, my love. I will. You as well, and stay safe. All right? Everybody be safe out there. Be good to each other. Everybody be good to each other, and you get a good night's rest. Oh, yes. I gotta drive. Now you go to bed for that drive. I'll see. I'll get another couple drinks first, then I'll be ready.
Perfect.
I'll steal it.
Take care, my love.
Take care, everyone. Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Oh, that was Thomas. Thomas was an absolute dream to have here on Talking Tea with Auntie. Thank you, everybody who is listening or watching today. And I'm still on the search for a new episode topic. So comment in the comment section what you'd like me to interview. And as always, I love y'all, and y'all take care of yourself. And if you enjoyed this content, please become a patron on my Patreon for as low as $3 a month. Patreon.com/Shine Nathan. And if not, you can't do that, babe, it's okay. Share this with your friends. As always, I love you, and drink your water, honey. A special thank you, as always, to all my patrons on Patreon. It really means the world to have their support, which allows me to keep my bills on and make this content for y'all. As again, if you found me organically or via any algorithm, thank you for being here. Y'all take care of yourself, and remember, check out Freakshow Deluxe on all the apps.